You need to tell me. I know what I must do.
Father, remember when I just wanted you to understand what was happening. Both Uncle Vanya and I were very unhappy. You could see that, couldn't you? Remember when I was a child, Uncle Vanya and Grandmother sitting up night after night translating articles from foreign languages for you. I just want you to see how unhappy we were and to understand why we were so unhappy. I wanted you to look at us. All you had to do was look at us.
A shot is heard off stage, Shot is heard off stage.
Now, what are they up to?
Something's going bad! Need that! Give it to me!
Let me go then.
Bang! 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 Miss! Bang! Miss! Bang! Miss! Bang! Miss! Miss! Bang! Miss! Bang! There he is! Bang! 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 Miss! 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 Bang! Yes. There he is! Miss! Bang! 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 Damnation, devil, take it!
And sinks to a chair.
Take me away from here. Please. Please take me. Let me go. I can't stay here another minute. I can't.
What have I done? Oh, what am I doing? What have I done? Oh, what am I doing?
Danny.
What am I doing? What am I doing? My God.
Nanny.
What am I doing?
Nanny.
My God.
Oh, Nanny.
What am I doing?
Nanny.
My God. Oh, what am I doing? My God. Oh, what am I doing?
Now, you see here, this is a map of the region the way it was 50 years ago. These green areas, the light green and the dark green, represent woodlands. Over half the entire area is forested. Where you see the red cross-hatching, those areas were teeming with elk and wild goats. See, what I've done is indicate both flora and fauna. And on this lake here, there used to be swans, geese, ducks, a powerful lot of birds. That's what the old people used to say.
Powerful lot of birds. That's what the old people used to say.
People used to say. Darkened the sky out there as far as the eye could see. And there weren't any towns or villages, not many inhabitants, a few
Not many
settlements.
inhabitants.
Cabins, hunting camps, one or two rubber mills. Lots of horses and cattle.
Horses and
cattle. What we're seeing here is the result of an uncontrolled struggle for survival. A man is freezing, hungry, sick, trying to save what's left of his life.
Trying to save what's left of his life?
Take care of his children. Trying to take care of his children. Darkened the sky out there as far as the eye could see. And there weren't any towns or villages, not many inhabitants, a few settlements, cabins, hunting camps, trying to take care of his children.
Trying to take care of his children.
He lets instinct take over, take over. He grabs whatever he thinks will feed him and keep him warm.
Grabs
He
whatever he
destroys
thinks will
everything
feed
around
him.
him, destroys everything around him. There are villages, not many inhabitants, a few settlements, cabins, hunting camps, keep him warm. He destroys everything around him. He destroys everything around him without a thought for the future.
Without a thought for the
It's almost all
future.
wrong already. And there's nothing to replace it.
And there's nothing to replace it.
Mine is very much a living language. In the more remote villages, nothing else is spoken. More routine work. I studied Mayan and listened to it on the tape recorder and mixed Mayan in with English. I made innumerable photo montages of Mayan codices and artifacts. The next step was to find a vessel. We sifted through many candidates before we settled on a young Mayan worker recently arrived from Yucatan. The boy was about 20. Almost black with the sloping forehead and curved nose of the ancient Mayans. The physical type has undergone little alteration. He was illiterate, he had a history of epilepsy, he was what the mediums call a sensitive. For another 3 months, I worked with the boy on the tape recorder, mixing his speech with mine. I was quite fluent in Mayan at this time. Unlike Aztec, it is an easy language.
Chi, 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 Tone, Tokobio, Kissing, Tokobio,
I studied Mayan, listened to it on tape recorder, mixed Mayan. I studied Mayan. I studied Mayan. I studied Mayan. I studied Mayan. It was time now for the transfer operation. I was to be moved into the body of this young Mayan. The operation's illegal. Few were qualified to practice it. I was referred to an American doctor who had been a heavy metal addict. He was the best transfer artist in the industry, I was told, for a price. We found the doctor in a dingy office on the Avenida de Cinco de Mayo. He was a gray man who flickered in and out of focus like an old film. I told him what I wanted, and he looked at me from a remote distance without warmth or hostility or any emotion I'd ever experienced in myself or seen in another. He nodded silently and ordered the Mayan boy to strip and ran practice fingers over his naked body. The doctor picked up a box-like instrument with little electrical attachments and moved it slowly up and down the boy's back from the base of his spine to his neck. The instrument clicked like a Geiger counter. Then the doctor explained to me that the operation was usually performed with the hanging technique. The patient's neck is broken, and during the orgasm that results, he passes into the other body. This method, however, is obsolete and dangerous. The operation, for it to succeed, you must work with a pure vessel, which has not been subject to parasite invasion. These subjects are almost impossible to find in present time, he stated flatly as cold gray eyes flicked across the young Mayan's naked body. This subject is riddled with parasites. If I were to employ the barbarous methods used by some of my learned colleagues, nameless assholes, you'd be eaten body and soul by crab parasites. My technique is quite different. I operate with molds. Your body will remain here intact and deep freeze. When you return, if you do return, you can have it back. He looked pointedly at my stomach sagging from sedentary city life. You could do with a stomach tuck, young man. One thing at a time. The transfer operation will take some weeks, and I warn you, it will be expensive. I told him cost was no object, that the news was behind me all the way. He nodded briefly. Come back, this time tomorrow. When we returned to the doctor's office, he introduced me to a thin young man who had the doctor's cool gray eyes. This is my photographer. I'll make my mold from his negatives. The photographer told me his name was Jimenez. Just call me Jimmy the Take. We followed the Take to his studio in the same building, equipped with a 35mm movie camera and Mayan backdrops. He posed as naked, in erection, in orgasm, cutting the image together down the middle line of our bodies. 3 times a week we went to the doctor's office. He looked through the rolls of film, his eyes intense, cold, impersonal. Ran that clicking box up and down our spines. Then he injected a drug, which he described as a variation of the apomorphine formula. The injection caused simultaneous vomiting and orgasm. Several times I find myself vomiting and ejaculating into the Mayan vessel. The doctor told me these exercises were only the preliminaries, that the actual operation, despite all precautions and skill, is still dangerous enough. At the end of 3 weeks, he indicated the time and come to operate. He arranged us side by side, naked on the operating table, under floodlights. With a phosphorescent pencil, he traced the middle line of our bodies, from the cleft under the nose down to the rectum. Then he injected heavy, cold silence as word dust fell from demagnetized patterns. Distance, I could see the doctor separating the 2 halves of our bodies and fitting together a composite being. I came back in other flesh. The lookout different. The thoughts and memories of the young Mayan were drifting through my brain. After the operation, the doctor gave me a bottle of the vomiting drug, which he explained was efficacious, blocking out your control waves. He also gave me another drug, which, if injected into a subject at night, would give me a few hours to occupy his body. But don't let the sun come up on you, or it's curtains. 0. Eaten by crabs. And now for the matter of my fee. I handed him a briefcase of banknotes. And he faded into the shadows, as furtive and seedy as an old junkie. 0. Eaten by crabs. 0. Eaten by crabs. Don't let the sun come up on you or it's curtains. 0. Eaten by crabs. Don't let the sun come up on you or it's curtains. 0. Eaten by crabs.
Come up and you was curtains. 0.
Eaten by crabs.
Crabs.
Did you hear what I said? Crabs.
0.
Eaten by crabs.
Curtains. Don't let the sun come.
Curtains. 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 0. Eaten by crabs.
Don't let the sun come up and you was curtains. 0.
By crabs. Crabs. Did you hear what I said? Crabs. 0. Eaten by crabs.